Now that we've discussed the pros and cons of having your card graded, I would like to share my humble personal opinion about this matter. Ever since I started collecting cards in the 1990s, I've already decided. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. This is Elmer Pistola, and I'm vlogging from the Philippines. One thing that card collectors must always remember is to never buy or acquire a card that has visible defects. A single defect, such as a rounded corner or a slightly scratched surface, can drastically bring down the price of a card. So if you're not careful enough when buying a card, you might end up paying full price for a card that is practically worthless. Before the 1990s, buying and selling cards could be troublesome. It is not uncommon for the buyer and the seller to disagree on the quality of the card. Of course, the seller will try to downplay any flaws in the card in order to get a higher price, and the buyer would amplify any flaws in the card in order to lower the price. When companies offering card grading services emerged in the early 1990s, this problem was somewhat addressed. Examples of these companies are the PSA and the Beckett Grading Services. What these companies do is to inspect closely the submitted card for flaws and defects, and then as- uh, assign a grade for the overall quality of the card. They use a grading system of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest. So if your our card gets a grade of 10, that means it's a genuine card, which is the highest level of quality that it can achieve. So basically, that's a perfect card, and expect it to be very marketable and high priced. On the other hand, if your card gets a low grade, then its value might even diminish compared to when it was in its raw form. So be very careful when you submit your cards for grading. Experts advise that you should inspect very closely yourself every card that you will submit for grading, and submit only those that you feel have a really good chance of getting a 10. That's their advice. One question that is often asked by newbie collectors is, should I have my cards graded? There is no single correct answer to that question. It all boils down to the personal preference of the collector. But to help us understand whether you want to have your cards graded or not, let's look at the pros and cons of uh, having your cards graded by a professional grading company. Okay, let's just go over this very quickly. So here are the pros of having your cards graded professionally. Number one, you will get a standardized condition assessment. So the final grade assigned by reputable grading companies on a card is often universally accepted to be true by collectors. So the grades are respected. So uh, there should be no arguments anymore as to the real grade of the card if the card is professionally graded. So that's how the system works. Number two, increased market value. Well, actually, I have to qualify this that not because you submitted a card for grading and you got it back in encapsulated form, its market value will increase. The increase in market value is just most prominent for those that get a grade of 9 or 10. Anything below that, the increase in value might not even be worth the effort to have your card graded. And in fact, it can even diminish what you can get for a card if the grade is really low. So number three, third pro of having your cards graded, protection, physical protection. Because when you have your cards graded, they are put or encapsulated in a tamper-proof case like this one. The card is encapsulated in a case like this. So this will give long-term protection to your card against mishandling and dust. But that's it. Remember, guys, this encapsulation or this case is not hermetic. So air and moisture can get through it. Okay. And the last advantage of having your cards graded is marketability because it is more appealing to serious collectors. Some serious collectors only collect graded cards. Now, here are the cons or disadvantages of having your cards graded. One, cost. Every time you have a card graded, you'll have to spend around $15 to $100 depending on the value of the card. Another disadvantage of having your cards graded is processing time. Submitting your cards for grading will take weeks to months. So if you're looking to sell quickly, you should consider the fact that having your card graded might delay it by not just days, but weeks and months, depending on the queue uh, in the grading company. Another disadvantage is subjectivity of the condition assessment. Remember, the people doing the inspections or grading are just humans. So they are vulnerable to inconsistency and subjectivity. Here's the fourth disadvantage, risk of getting a low grade. There's always this risk because not because you submitted the card, you'll always get a 9 or a 10. And in fact, if you get a lower grade for your card, it can uh, bring down the value of your card versus if you had not, if you did not submit it for grading. The fifth disadvantage is potential loss or damage. Submitting your card for grading will entail shipment, so the card can get lost during shipping or damaged during grading. Another disadvantage is that the uh, universal acceptance of grades given by grading companies depend on trust in the grading companies. So there were periods in the past or in the integrity of the grading companies has been questioned, and even scandals were reported. So if the public loses trust in these grading companies, then the whole system of grading cards crumbles. And all of a sudden, you might find your graded cards worthless. I'm not saying it will happen, but this is a real risk. Like if nobody trusts in PSA or Beckett anymore, then definitely those cards that have been inspected or graded by them in the past could also diminish in value because the trust in the grade also diminishes. Now that we've discussed the pros and cons of having your card graded, I would like to share my humble personal opinion about this matter. Ever since I started collecting cards in the 1990s, I've already decided not to use or not to submit my cards for professional grading. And the reasons are what I've already mentioned earlier. There's an added cost uh, to get information on the quality of my card when I myself can determine that for myself. And it takes a long time to have them graded, so it makes me anxious to part with my precious cards. And there's always this risk for loss or damage. And also, I'm afraid that I will get a lower grade for the card that I've submitted. So that's also a deterrent for me. Um, and also the encapsulation that the card will be returned in is will not provide absolute protection because it's not hermetic. So air and moisture can still get inside the case, which can discolor the card or lead to molds and mildew. Okay. And the last reason for me not submitting my cards for grading is that I'm just a simple collector. I'm not planning to sell my cards to anybody else. So I just want to enjoy them in their raw form uh, uh, without being encapsulated. Because nowadays, you can, if you're after protection, you can also buy one-touch magnetic cases nowadays that will even probably provide better protection for your cards against mishandling and dust. So these are the reasons why I have opted not to send my cards for grading. But then again, this is just my own personal opinion for myself. So if you don't agree with me, that's great. Have your cards graded because having your cards graded definitely has its own advantages. Okay, so that's it. I hope you enjoyed my vlog for tonight. Thank you again for watching this vlog. Have a pleasant evening.